Hi, everyone. My name is Ramya. I serve as a California DECA State President. With us today, we have two guests who are here to talk more about role plays. So I'm going to let them introduce themselves.
Hey everyone, I'm Aryan Dua. I'm president of Irvington DECA.
Hi everyone, my name is Harshit. I'm the Vice President of Competitions at Irvington DECA.
So before we get started, would you guys both like to talk about your experience in role plays, if you've placed at the state level or the international level?
Sure. So for role play specifically, last year I placed third for FTDM at states, and then I went on to represent California at ICDC, where I placed sixth internationally at ICDC for financial team decision making.
Yeah, so my background is mainly in individual role plays and in particular marketing. In 2020, I placed fourth at states for ASM, and this year in 2021, I placed first at states.
Awesome. So let's get started with some quick Q&A about role plays. So the first question's for Aryan. I guess, how do you typically address the KPIs within your role play?
For the KPIs, I think addressing them is one thing, but the more important part is integrating it. So just before I get into all the details, I think it's important to define what KPIs are. KPIs for everyone stands for key performance indicators. Yeah, they're pretty much the most integral part of your role play. Whether you're doing individual or team, they're typically worth the most points on the judge's rubric. And basically, they're business-oriented questions that you're supposed to answer that are in some way related to the role play scenario that you're provided with. And the way that I integrate them personally is I come up with an answer for each one of those KPIs, and then I talk about them as I'm discussing my answer to the scenario or my presentation for the judge.
Okay, awesome. And then for Harshit, how do you prepare for your cluster's respective KPIs before attending a conference?
Yeah, definitely. So I think certain conferences such as NorCal, you actually know what specific cluster, specific area those role plays will be in. So the first thing, especially for those conferences, what I do is just, check those out and then look at the respective KPIs. It's pretty easy to find them out either just by looking them up or looking at other previous prompts. And then for other conferences such as states or ICDC, it's more of just a generalized sort of a quick kind of look through of all these various different prompts and finding some like very common ones, such as like determining the nature of marketing, which is almost there in almost all of my prompts, which is, in a marketing cluster, and then developing an answer based on that, which then I can implement into an actual roleplay.
Awesome. Thank you, Harshit. The next question is for Aryan. So how do you make sure that the judge is aware of what KPI you're answering?
Sure. So one of the things you don't want to do is specifically point out exactly what KPI you'll be answering. You don't actually want to say the word PI or KPI during your role play either. You want to just sort of, once again, come up with an answer and integrate that into your role play. So for example, Harsha discussing the nature of marketing plans, right? You never want to say, next I'm going to discuss the nature of marketing plans. That would be very unnatural for a business meeting, which you're essentially role playing as part of this event. So you want to sort of briefly go over it. That's what I like to do. You want to say, next I'm going to walk you through the marketing plan that I've developed for your business. And just before we get into that, I want to talk about some generic factors that go into a marketing plan. And so, that is sort of like a way of introducing that certain KPI. And then you go into some of the technical details, the business details, I'm like the 4 Ps or whatever plan you come up with. You want to integrate those details into your response as you're answering. And I feel like that would be an effective way of answering KPIs.
Awesome. Thank you. So now we'll talk a little bit more about, I guess, prep time for role plays. So starting off with Harshit's for individual role plays. So how do you kind of organize your prep time?
Sorry, I think I was on mute, but definitely. So I think the first thing that I do is when I sit down is I immediately just read through the prompt and then just immediately, again, look at the KPIs, because those are the two main component pieces of a role play. And then I would write them down usually. Obviously, you're given like a couple of scratch papers, as well as the role I am playing. So, I just keep it in the back of my mind so I don't forget. And next, I start developing my plan based around those KPIs. So whatever specific outline that I want to create, for example, if it's a marketing plan, then I would, structure it following whatever KPIs follow that marketing plan, such as, whether it's related to finance or marketing. And then after that, just create some, like visuals to go along with it to kind of give something to the judge to look at. And then finally, I guess the last few minutes, I kind of just rehearse it in my head on like what particular intro I want to come in with or what particular conclusion I want to end with. And then depending on that, I go in and do my role play.
Awesome. Kind of the same question for Aryan, but because it's a TDM, how do you also split up your speaking points between your partner?
Sure. I think very similar to what Harjit said, the first thing you want to do is scan the role play scenario and the KPIs. It's sort of different with a team decision making event in the sense that you have a partner with you, and you really have to make sure that your partner is you and your partner have to be on the same page as to where you want to take the plan. So the first couple of minutes, I would recommend you spend sort of deciding what you want to do with it, reading the prompt together, and seeing what direction you want to take it. And then typically, I split up with me and my partner, regardless of who it is, the different aspects of the role play. So, one very common technique that I know a lot of people use is dividing the PIs into two, because they can work pretty much independent of each other. They're not dependent on amongst themselves. So, maybe you can do odd and even or something like that, where both of you split up and come up with good answers for the PIs, and together that way you're able to save a little bit of time as compared to both of you going through it together. And then after that, I think maybe 10-15 minutes into prep, you want to come together and start developing your actual plan and some visual that you might want to give the judge as part of your plan. And then you want to save, like I said, like Harshit said, the last couple of minutes just for rehearsing, for making sure you know who's going to speak when, and so there's no accidents there. I feel like that's the sort of general timeline you want to go along with a TDM. It's definitely a little bit longer and more collaborative, a little bit of a tougher prompt, but I think the essence is the same.
Okay, awesome. And then the last question for today is, what are some common mistakes you guys make in an in-person role play that you guys want to avoid, kind of?
Right, so I guess I'll just go ahead and go first. So something that I used to do a lot when I was earlier in DECA and just started out is that sometimes my content wouldn't be long enough. My role plays would only end up being like maybe 5-6 minutes, and that is something I do see in a lot of newer members today. But something I did to work on that was just kind of go in more depth into the KPIs. So again, spending time outside of DECA role plays, learning what they mean, and specifically how to learn more content about them, which then I could apply during the role play itself instead of just coming without much prep, which then helped me in the long run. And now my role plays around 8 to 10 minutes.
Sort of on similar lines, I think one of the mistakes I used to make was, even if you have the good plans, the way that you're delivering them really matters, especially in any form of business. That oftentimes, you go in with a lot of ideas that you have in your head, but they're only known to you and not to the person hearing it, whether that be a judge or an audience. So you really have to think from their perspective, the background that they're coming in with, what they're thinking, rather than, the information you have to say, rather than, just speaking really fast or just getting all of your ideas out there. A lot of times members are worried about, running out of time. So they're just quick to glance over them. And that way, the judge doesn't really show much interest in what you're saying, because, you're speaking too fast, or, you're not speaking clearly enough. So just slowing it down and taking it easy, making sure to think from the judge's perspective is, I think, one of the biggest things that you should do. And, just take it a little bit easy. All the judges know that you've prepared very, very well for this. So just being calm, taking it easy, and being yourself in the role play rather than trying to get all your ideas out in 10 minutes is something that I would advise for all the members.
Okay, awesome. Thank you both.